What's your website real quick?
And welcome once again to Prepper Talk Radio. And Scott, yeah, I've got you on the phone here already. So just to let you know, we are on air live and happy to have you join us this morning.
Yeah,
go ahead,
we're
Scott.
excited. I'm actually down here at the Outdoor Retailer right now, and I'm hanging out at the Survival Medical booth today. Right now, it's crazy. We're going to talk about all the fun stuff that the outdoor world brought into prepping, but I'm actually standing over by Agala Canyon right now, and I'm playing with their Boreal 21, which is a 21-inch bow saw.
You're standing by where? What is it?
Agala Canyon.
Agala Canyon.
Agala, A-G-A-W-A, Canyon.com.
Oh, okay.
And Agua Canyon. I'm saying it all wrong. Inc. Agua Canyon Inc.
Okay, that makes more sense.
These saws, it looks like it's just this really nice piece of metal folded up. Flips out really fast in a 21-inch bow saw, and you've got like 4 different blades. I'm blown away because it's ultralight. It's easy to assemble, disassemble, and it fits right inside your backpack, no problem. You don't have to worry about cutting anything. The blade folds inside itself. It's
Make sure to bring
I
one
just wanted
back
to
with
geek
you.
out.
I want to do
I know.
a
I
review
need to
on
get
it.
one of these.
Very cool.
They're about £1. So, yeah, we're going to be talking today about what happened with prepping, how it all started in the outdoor adventure world.
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
going to have some fun today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I would love to be there with you, Scott. It's I am a gearhead through and through. I know you are as well. And
I think you're much bigger gearhead than you give yourself credit for.
Oh, thank you. I think I am too. But yeah, I wanted to talk quickly about our transition from PrepperCon to Prepper Talk Radio. I know some of you had some questions about that, but yeah, we're essentially just rebranding. We're hoping to do big things with the show, and we appreciate your support and listening in and your calls and all that. And so we're now Prepper Talk Radio, and you can find us at preppertalkradio.net. Is that right, Scott?
That's right.
All right, cool. As well as Prepper Talk on Facebook, Twitter, all those good ones.
Instagram, everywhere.
And we're still working on putting those together. We're working the full-time jobs and trying to make this happen as well as PrepperCon coming up this next April. So we appreciate your patience and bearing with us, and we're doing what we can. So Prepper Talk Radio, thanks for joining us. And so as Scott mentioned today, we want to talk about kind of the evolution of prepping, or rather a personal evolution of prepping, whereas like Scott's at the Outdoor Retailer Expo today, and the reason he's there is, first of all, he's Mr. PrepperCon, and of course he's got to be there and invite more people to come out to the expo this next year, as well as gathering intel, right, Scott?
Well, really, I'm actually here helping Survival Medical, which is one of our sponsors. You know, they've got the best kits out there. The Survival Medical kits are tougher than nature. I mean, it's hospital quality gear in kits that fit. Basically, what that means is they're going to work in any situation. If you're a backpacker, we've got ultralight backpacker kits. I should say they have. Keep saying we have. They have ultralight backpacker kits. If you're going out on the lake, or if you're going out on the ocean, I mean, they've got coastal kits. They've got fly fisherman kits specific to what your adventure is. So you don't have to haul this big bag everywhere you go. And they last actually 20 years. That's the coolest thing about them. So I'm excited. I'm here helping them out, and they just let me wander around while everyone's setting up. They just opened the expo, so it's going to get crazy loud, crazy busy. I mean, the big buyers from Cabela's and Shields and all the big name, big brand companies are out here looking for the product to put in their stores.
Yeah, I was looking through the list of exhibitors, and a lot I recognized and an awful lot that I didn't. So this is more specific to retailers, correct? It's not really open to the public type.
Yeah, it's not a consumer show. This is a retailer show. So you're going to find a lot of the same companies you're going to see at a consumer show, but this is where they're looking for business partners to help distribute their product. So they've got this tent I'm in. They call it a tent, but it's the size of a football field. And this steel reinforced beams and cabling, it's pretty impressive.
So
this is just
you're outside?
The new businesses. It's inside.
Oh,
it's air conditioned.
In a tent inside.
It's an outside tent, but you feel like you're inside.
Cool.
But it's at the Salt Palace.
Mm-hmm.
They've got 3 of these huge tents, and one of them's all food storage for camping, outdoors, survival, preparedness. One of them is kind of all just clothing, and the one I'm in is new product lines.
Oh, cool.
So there's some pretty cool stuff, like the saw I was just talking about. Renovo Water Filters is here, and they've got a brand new water filter. Our friends Borrow Cook, They've got that really cool cooking system. You can throw it in your car and
Mm-hmm.
cook your food while you're on the go. You know,
Yep.
there's a lot of really cool products here, and it just kind of goes to where most preppers get their gear. It's from these outdoor retailers.
Yeah, it's one thing I noticed about the list of exhibitors is that, hey, I buy a lot of my prepping stuff from some of these same brands. And like you say, this part of this evolution is maybe it starts off with your being in Scouts, getting your exposure to going hiking. And for me, it started out with my dad and going hiking and camping and deer hunting and then of course into Scouts and eventually really into outdoors is where, like this outdoor retailers show, a lot of these products, or I would say the vast majority of these products are prepper products as well, and that's really why you're there along with Survival Medical, and why we're talking about gear in particular. You know, we're us both being gearheads, but also gear is a very essential part of prepping. But we're also going to try and before the end of the show swing over towards the complete opposite of changing
Yes.
lifestyle, of simplifying life, and so forth, and kind of seeing where that evolution of prepping, of your personal aspects of prepping, where it goes, where it's eventually going to go, and where I'm at in my process of evolution, where you're at, and so forth. So that's really what we're hoping to talk about today.
And I think the fun thing is prepping, because it kind of gets its roots in camping, outdoors. I mean, I've been camping since I was a baby, and we always had cool cooktops. We always had neat tents. But there's so many advancements to make things easier and better that these two groups really merge really fast, and that's where prepping kind of starts for a lot of people. When they start thinking, okay, what's going to happen if the crap hits the fan, my house goes down, where am I going to live?
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of
You know,
people who are involved in the outdoors, they go hiking, they go backpacking, they do some type of activity, cycling or whatever outdoors, is that they are already moderately prepared to an extent to survive a disaster or some kind of an emergency, because they can already know how to throw up a tent, they know how to they're physically fit and they can get away from emergencies and disasters, and they've already got that mindset.
Oh yeah, and it's a quick, easy little switch. And what happens is as an outdoor person who became a prepper, for me it was all of a sudden I realized all these things that I have I can use as I started waking up to what's going on around me, what's going on in the world, and it made it a lot more easy or accessible to have a solution, because I already had skills and gear and things like that, and that's how the outdoor industry really just connects right into preppers and makes it even more fun.
Yeah, and you and I were talking earlier about this outdoor gear being kind of a gateway drug into the prepping world. Is for me, yeah, gear. Being a gearhead, it is an addiction to me, and I've learned to control my addiction to where I say, okay, do I really need this? And versus, like, it's so cool, I want to have that, and as a prepper and someone who lives on a budget, doesn't have an unlimited amount of money, you have to make those I guess call them tough decisions on whether you're going to get that cool little new device like that saw, or I already have a decent saw. It's not a lightweight folding saw, but hey, it'll work. And so am I going to spend the $60 or whatever on that saw, or am I going to just keep the gear I have and use that until it breaks and then replace it at that point? So
exactly. And I look at all the stuff that I see here as replacement items for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you use something, you need to replace it. As soon as it breaks, you got to replace it. This stuff, it's all here.
Now, if you have a particular special purpose in getting a particular piece of gear, say you have a location chosen, you're going to bug out to a certain location, and you got to carry all this gear with you to get there. You're going to hike there, you're going to walk there. That's the only way to get there, and you need lightweight gear. Then you may need to seek out some of these particular technologically advanced devices to save you some weight and convenience.
Yeah, absolutely. And just simplify. That's all it really comes down to, is simplifying. You're trying to make things make a little bit more sense.
And I think you're absolutely right there, is that when you first get started in the outdoor industry, you see all this cool gear and you got to have one of everything. But as you learn and grow and become more experienced, you realize, man, I can really do without a lot of this stuff. I can really live a simple existence, and And that's kind of where my evolution of prepping is taking me, is that, yes, I love gear. I'm a total gearhead, and I love technology, and I want to explore that a little bit as well. Technology versus living off the land and simplicity. But instead of having several different knives, having one or two that do specific purposes, because you learn what a particular tool will do for you, what it won't do, and you can set that aside, sell it, and buy something different. So that's kind of where I'm hoping to this conversation goes today.
Absolutely. The rule of redundancy is probably one of the most important rules in preparedness,
Mm-hmm.
but also the rule of versatility, being able to use one product for a lot of different things. For example, a knife. I carry a knife every day. One of the most important tools that I have is my knife, because it's not just a knife. It's a can opener.
Mm-hmm.
It's a screwdriver. I've got a measuring device on it. It's a bottle opener. I mean,
And you
so
had
many
a
things
backup.
you can use.
You had a backup
Yeah.
until you lost yours, and so you used your backup.
Well, I got another backup already.
Okay.
So
All
I
right,
don't like
good.
not having a backup. So I've got a backup in the car, and I've got the primary in my pocket.
I'm the same way, and just like with my cupboards, like with anybody's cupboards, and in replenishing and rotating your food storage, once you use something, okay, yeah, I've got 4 other ones, but I don't have 5. So we're going to replenish that, and keep that back in store, and have all that extra those extra supplies you need, whether it be like extra knives or whatever it be, a backup tent, a backup sleeping bag, those types of things. Or again, let's look toward the living off the land aspect. Yeah, can you just live with a wool blanket? Can you just survive off that and learn how to build a shelter and not carry a tent or 2 with you? I mean, there's so many different aspects we can explore here, and so that's. Any other comments on that, Scott?
No, I think we're on the right page. I think,
okay, cool.
Listeners, I mean, you guys know what you do. What's your evolution? Join in the conversation. Help us understand better ways to be better prepared, and what kind of got you into it is different for everybody. We're just talking about what got us into it, how the outdoor market kind of is our gateway drug,
Yep.
so to speak. Towards the end of the hour, we're going to be talking about the simplification.
Mhm.
How a lot of people are using a new term called back to the landers. It's kind of a whole new movement for the homesteading group. They
Mhm.
just want to be completely off-grid, completely disconnected from society, and just
It's an
simplify
old
every
movement
facet of
that's
life.
coming back around.
Yep.
And we can definitely talk more about that. And I've got a caller calling in. I'll take your call here in a second. We're going to go to break in just a few seconds, so I'll hesitate picking up your call right now. But hang in there, or feel free to call back in a couple of minutes, and we'll get your comment there. So you're listening to Prepper Talk Radio, and Scott, Mr. Preppercon, Shane of PreparedGuy.com, and we will be right back after this break. Thanks for joining us. And we are back to Prepper Talk Radio, and I just want to make it, I guess, perfectly clear, you guys. Feel free to call in and talk about whatever you want. This is your station. If you have something you want to say, hopefully it's on topic, and that's what we're here for. If you want to take us off topic, go right ahead. Because that's this is your show. This is for you guys to talk to. So feel free to call in. But right now, we're talking about gear. We're talking about prepping, of course. We are the Prepper Talk Radio Show. I am Shane of PreparedGuy.com, and Scott, Mr. Preppercon, of PrepperCon.com, and the expo that's coming up this next April. Hope you'll join us again. But like I say, feel free to call in, and I've got line 3 ringing here. I kind of hesitate to pick this up. But
Grab them. Let's get them on the air.
Go ahead, caller, line 3. What would you like to say?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of propane. So
Okay.
this month on Big Street, there's a big propane outfit there that I fill my cylinders.
Mm-hmm.
And the 19th of this month, they're going to have a big special for 99 cents a gallon.
Oh, wow. That's a great deal.
Yeah, so get your cylinders, filled up for winter now or whenever.
That's
I just filled mine at regular price, but they had a sign inside, and it says this month they're going to have a party or something. They're going to do a 99-cent gallon refill on the propane cylinders.
Well, that's fantastic. Thanks for letting us know about that. And you bring up a really great point: is that propane, you can store that for decades, and it's still good.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like unleaded, where you have to refresh it and you need to add additives to it. But yeah, absolutely great point.
And now that it's hot, I use my grill as a stove.
Absolutely.
Outside.
Great
I
prepper
don't
item.
have to
Barbecue grills are a great prepper item. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So 99 cents, the 19th.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your call. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
That's it. Thanks for
Okay,
now.
thank you.
It's funny. We're talking about preparedness. We're talking about what brought people into it. And I just walked by, and didn't even know these guys are here at the outdoor retailer. But our buddy Josh over at Family Storehouse, they're here.
Yeah.
They're showcasing their newest product. They've got food storage in an ammo can.
Food storage.
It's all practical. It's seriously sweet. And if you haven't had their food, it's amazing.
So you can bury it. You put it in an ammo can. You can bury it.
You
Is
can
that the
bury
idea?
it. You can use this as a cache and just hide it somewhere. Throw it in the back of your car. It's going to be better preserved, better storage. And these ammo cans are waterproof. So that's one of the things I love about it.
That's cool.
But yeah, they've always got some really good and innovative things. But Family Storehouse, they're one of our good friends. Always connected with PrepperCon Radio, Prepper Talk Radio now, and K-Talk. So we need to get them back over in the studio soon. But
Absolutely.
yeah, they're here. I'm seeing all kinds of stuff that's perfect for our industry, perfect for just everyday preparedness, active lifestyles. And that's one of the things I think a lot of us in the preparedness industry are missing is we're not active enough. I see a lot of people that are just sitting around waiting for the collapse, and they're getting heavier and heavier and heavier. So,
but it's
if
also
there's a way you can get off the couch, get off the couch.
It's also, it can help in your survival if you do have excess body fat that you're going to be able to survive longer without food, right?
Well,
but hard to get around.
A little excess
yes.
is good. If you go overkill, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a whole other topic for another day. But in talking about gear, I wanted to talk about tents. That was on my list to talk about tents. Although I know, Scott, we have a lot of other things we want to talk about. We don't want to take up too much time. But, of course, we talk about Vital Domes all the time. You've got this other, what's the other tent company there, Scott?
Journey Tents is about to launch, and they're going to actually become the preferred reseller of Vital Domes.
Okay.
Journey Tents, it's a sister company, and they've taken the same polyvinyl exterior that Vital Domes uses, and they put it into a wall tent. So now instead of buying a canvas wall tent that's going to last you a few years, they say, this canvas tent will last you 50 years if you take care of it. Well, the problem is it is so high maintenance, it's not a passive solution. This tent, the polyvinyl tent, it's no maintenance.
And you can just leave it up for years.
Yeah, you can leave it up for years. And it all came because one of the companies Vital Domes works with asked for refugee homes. And they say the biggest problems they have is that there's over 52 million refugees in the world from just last year, and that the homes that they've been provided last less than 2 years.
Wow.
And they need a better solution. It's because they're always canvas tents. So now there's this new option. And they're launching, I think, Monday, but they're really close. They've got a few different products. I really love them. I've actually already bought one.
They're like a cabin-style tent, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and they've got a couple different sizes. They've got an 8x10, which is good for 2 to 4, and it comes with a stove jack, so you can put a little stove in there and live there year-round. And then they've got their Explorer version, which is 11.5 by 16, which will sleep 8 comfortably. And if you get a couple of those, I found this product here called the Disco Bed. It's a
disco bed?
Stackable bed.
Oh,
and they use these discs to stack them. So it's kind of a really weird name. But you could sleep another 8 people in one of these tents because now you have really lightweight, portable bunk beds.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of cool, kind of fun.
Yeah, and I think the main reason I want to talk about tents is, we talk about the survival rules of 3 all the time. And one of the main ones is shelter. And
absolutely,
when you talk about going into the outdoors, camping, backpacking, otherwise, you need to pick a good tent. Now, you probably don't want to take a Journey tent with you. You want to backpack that in. You don't want to backpack a Vital Dome, but a good backpacking tent. And choosing one is essential, if you ask me.
And you also have to consider the elements that you're going to be camping and hiking in. I mean, most people that go backpacking, it's summer.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you have to worry about?
That's right.
Wind and mostly the sun.
Sun and
occasionally
of course rain. As well. Yep.
Unless it's a fluke storm, but you're not having to worry about a whole lot. And so you want the lightest, quickest setup that you can possibly get for that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's dig into that a little bit more because I love talking details on gear. You know me. There's the different styles of tent. There's the cabin tents, and then there's the dome tents. Dome tents tend to be freestanding. They have aluminum poles, fiberglass poles, and can stand on their own. They don't need stakes to stay upright. And that's my preferred choice of tent because it's easy to throw up. It goes up quickly. You would use stakes in order to keep it from blowing away, essentially. That's really the only reason.
Exactly.
Or maybe
and
put your Rayfly on.
That's the ideal for backpacking.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's your ideal backpacking, multi-purpose tent. Now, my first comment I wanted to say is, do yourself a favor, stay away from the big box stores, unless you're buying a tent just for your kids to mess around in, because it's not going to last long. So,
absolutely.
Choosing a quality tent, and just like these Vital Domes and Journey tents, they're made to last 7 years out in the sun all the time. Now, most of these backpacking tents are not going to last that long. If you set them up, for a full year or two, they're just not going to last.
Well, they're just not going to last the winter anyway.
That's right, and they're not going to last the winter. They're not. There's 3-season tents, there's 3 to 4 season tents, and there's 4-season tents. And you don't want to backpack necessarily with a 4-season tent because it's heavier fabric, heavier poles to handle snow, winds, and so forth. But most people, in most cases, you can get away with just a standard 3-season tent. Now, having said don't go to the big box stores, and I'm referring in particular to Wally World, where I see a lot of people going. They see a tent on the shelf. It's $30, it's $40, $50, depending on 2-man to 6-man, whatever. You can get a 6-man tent there for $40, $50, $70, $80, depending on how big it is, and then it lasts you a couple of camping trips with your family.
If that.
If that,
we
get some
we
wind.
made that mistake a long time ago. We actually got one at that big Red K place, and it lasted half of a camp out.
Really? Okay, already.
The fiberglass pole snapped.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Are you kidding me?" We had probably 20-mile-an-hour wind hit, and it just snapped.
That's nothing.
And we had half a dome.
Well, they are a big sail. Once you put them up, they're an awfully big sail, especially the tall ones. So in choosing a tent, I have a lot of different criteria in choosing a tent. First of all, don't spend $30 on a tent at Wally World, because it's going to fail you, and you're going to may end up in trouble. You may end up in a serious situation, especially if you backpacked in and you encounter a storm or whatever. You need a good, reliable gear, and that's being a gearhead. It's about research. It's about talking to your friends and shopping around a lot and looking at gear and learning what is really important in a good quality tent. Now, for bugging out, Vital Dome and a Journey tent, they're going to be your best ones to take with you because they're going to last forever. Now, for a backpacking tent, I'm not going to throw out a particular brand, but things you should look for. Obviously, lightweight is important. How important is up to you, because the lighter the weight it is, the more expensive it's going to be. Are you willing to spend $250, $300 or more on a tent you're going to use maybe once or twice a year on a extended backpacking or hiking trip?
And you've also got to take into consideration how are you going to be using it.
Mm-hmm.
You and I always talk about gear, and it's always about testing.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure what you're looking at is going to work for you. I've got, my brother. He's a rock climbing enthusiast.
Yep.
He's a rigging expert, and so he teaches all the guys that are tree trimmers and the arborists, he teaches EMTs, and he teaches search and rescue how to use riggings and ropes for rescue. And and he uses one of those tri-tents.
Right. Okay.
So basically, you find 3 trees,
Mm-hmm.
and you set your tent up about 10 feet up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
That way, everything's up in the tent, up in the air. You don't have to worry about snakes. You don't have to worry about as many bugs.
Now,
So you're up.
Hard to
out
do
of the
in the
element.
desert. Hard to do. You got to be up in the where there's the big pines and such to be able to do something like that. Now,
True.
we have a caller calling in here. Let's roll the dice and take this call. All right. Hello, you're on K-Talk. What would you like to talk about?
I have a question about, if say there's a disaster or something, there's reports of looting,
Mm-hmm.
and the government comes around and says, stay in place, stay at home,
Okay.
keep your doors locked and all that. Would you bug out, or would you stay at home like they asked?
Well, that's a good question. That's a tough question too, because it really depends on the overall picture. If it's a small event, I would probably stay home. And in most cases, right now, my current scenario, my current setup is that we are bugging in, we are sheltering in place, really regardless of the situation, unless Mount Timpanogos turns into a volcano or something, and we got to get out of there. Otherwise, we're sheltering in place. So depending on, and if it's some kind of epidemic, if it's some type of has to do with radiation, then yeah, maybe you need to get out of there. So I think that it really depends on what they're saying to shelter in place. In most cases, yes, I would say shelter in place. Did you have a specific scenario?
If there's an epidemic,
Mm-hmm.
would you want to go out into it, or would you be better off?
No.
You don't want to go
That's
into
a great
it.
point.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you're clean. You want to be in a clean environment. And the nice thing about sheltering in
Right,
place
but
is you can
I
make
live in a
it
pretty
clean, but you also want to be
area.
able to get out of that environment as quick as you can. So you want to make sure you have suits that you can use to get out of there.
Yeah, there are a lot of
Okay,
variables.
if you could jump in your car and leave, I guess we could do that. But if you're hiking out, if you're
Right.
walking out,
Correct. And,
yeah.
and you
I guess it all does depend on.
Mhm.
But I've kind of thought about that.
Yeah,
What
no,
would I
if
do?
you live in a big city, it's probably a good idea to get away from people if you have a place to go. That's the big if you have a place to go, you've already say, hey, I've got family that live in this little country town and there's an epidemic. It's probably a good idea to get out and go to the family's place. Maybe already have some stuff you stashed there, some stuff prepared, so you don't have to take a whole trailer load full of stuff with you, but you can throw your 96-hour kits in your car and some supplies and get out of Dodge.
Yeah, but that's another thing because I do have a place to go. My father has a farm, and
fantastic.
and I thought about, should I take some of my stuff there, or should I keep it in case I decide to stay?
Yeah.
So
I highly recommend both. Keep
Yeah.
some where you are.
It's
get
a
some where you
conundrum.
want to go.
It is. It's a tough decision. If you have enough money to buy duplicates of everything, which most of us don't, then
No, I don't.
then yeah, you can put some at each location. But otherwise, yeah, you have to make those hard decisions and say, okay, I'm going to have this kit ready. I'm going to have these supplies that I can mobilize quickly if we need to get out, and hopefully, we'll have some notice. You see things happening and you can stay awake and you can say, you know what, I'm going to start packing up the trailer just in case we need to bug out to Dad's place.
Yeah.
And be prepared to leave early. And that's really the key, is especially if you live in a big city where there's a lot of, you've got to take the interstate to get out. If you
Yeah,
don't
but
have
if there's
alternate
an
route.
earthquake, I don't think we're going to get much warning about that.
No, you're
Oh,
absolutely right.
definitely not.
Yeah, you're
Yep.
absolutely.
You'll
Well,
be
thank you,
shaking.
gentlemen.
You bet.
Your alert
Thanks
will
for
be
the
a
call.
shaking system.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. It's a great topic, and we can definitely spend more time on that. So, back to tents, I guess. Just a couple more minutes before the next break. A few things that I look for in a quality tent is, number one is I look for quality zippers. And I look for that in backpacks, in bags, is the zipper feature is incredibly important. If that fails, it's almost like you don't even have a tent. You don't have full shelter, other than it will provide your shade. So,
A tent with a bad zipper is no better than just a tarp.
yeah, and
A
sometimes
tarp
the
can
tarp's
be a
better
great
than
shelter.
than nothing.
Yeah.
And I know some survivalists who that's all they take. They just take a quality tarp with them and build their shelter out of the tarp, and they don't. They need nothing but just a roof over their heads to keep the rain and the snow or whatever off. So that's where experience comes into play. So zippers, I love the YKK brand. If it has YKK, you're good to go. other than that, compare the YKK quality to the other quality zippers on that tent. And any good manufacturer will say what kind of zippers they have and why they're a quality zipper.
Exactly.
And the next thing I look for is I stay away from fiberglass poles. I like aluminum poles. They're lighter. They're actually stronger and more durable. Fiberglass, you'll tend to get on the cheapo tents from Wally World. And like you say, in that 20-mile-an-hour wind, it broke. And you can patch it with some duct tape, but it's not going to be the same.
It's going to last you a couple of days, if that.
Exactly. Good aluminum
duct tape's
poles.
Great, but it's not tougher than nature.
Yep. All right, here comes our music, and we will catch you on the other side of this break. Thanks for joining us here at Prepper Talk Radio on AM 630 K-Talk. We are back here on AM 630 K-Talk, Prepper Talk Radio. Got Scott at the Outdoor Retailer Expo, and me, Shane, prepared guy. Some people think I am over-prepared. Some people think I'm paranoid, and maybe even a little crazy. But I guess all time will tell whether any of that is true. But I'd rather be safe. Right, Scott?
It's better to be crazy and prepared than it is to be unprepared and dead.
I agree with you there 100%.
Plus, it's a lot more fun to be crazy.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
Okay being crazy.
And, I don't mind being called over-prepared or paranoid, honestly. My kids were talking to me the other day, Dad, you're a little paranoid, aren't you?
It's funny. The whole prepared versus paranoid conversation, I think, for you and I comes up almost daily.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's with family, friends, business associates, people we meet, it's always coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with me. If you just don't understand something, you're going to look at it and think it's crazy.
Now, absolutely. Now, if we go back to where we're leading this conversation today, to getting back to homesteading and living off the land and so forth, that's kind of where we want to steer this conversation. If we took ourselves back to that time and we were just as prepared as we are now, would we be called paranoid back then, or would we be called, just smart, wise, people that have got our act together?
I think one of the funniest things is back then it was just simple. It was a way of life. Everyone expected you to be self-reliant. Everyone expected themselves to be able to get themselves out of whatever mess they got into or whatever
Mm-hmm.
happens to them. And so it was a completely different mindset. Whereas today, everyone is expecting, I shouldn't say everyone, so many people are expecting a handout. So many people are expecting someone else to rescue them when something happens. Nobody knows how to do it themselves anymore. We've gotten complacent. And that's kind of where this whole movement of homesteading is kind of re-emerging, or as they like to call themselves, the Back to the Landers movement. And they're just trying to get back to the land, back to the natural relationship between man and the wild.
Yeah. Now, we've got a call here on line 3. I will go ahead and take that. Roll the dice again. Hello, caller. Welcome to K-Talk Radio. What have you got for us?
Yeah, I've been listening to what you guys are talking about as far as homesteading and, really kind of getting back into the more basic ways of, life, whether it be, having solar panels for a little more comfort or nothing at all, but really having a functional home that is independent off the grid.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I think is so important on this is that the more dependency we have on these systems, if something goes wrong, we are going to find ourselves in a very compromised position. And the governments and everybody wants us to be in a position like that. That's why they don't want you to have homesteads. They really try to corral you into the cities. But, I don't want to be compromised. I don't want to be put in a compromised position. And so from an overall ecological standpoint, it makes sense to me.
Absolutely.
You're absolutely correct there. And we were planning on getting into that topic as well, and appreciate your comments.
No problem.
You're absolutely correct. We know that it's all about control. And that's why the government's getting bigger, because they just want to control us. And it's brainwashing us into thinking that, others will take care of us, when we know it's our own responsibility to take care of ourselves. And that's
right. And real quick, this is a final, and this is a thought that had hit me the other day.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these people who are very dependent upon the government and have a very entitlement mentality, I thought, what if I was stuck out in the middle of the desert and I was given some seeds, shovel, and a knife, and nobody else. And they were in that position too. They're compromised. There's no dignity there. It's a scary spot.
Yeah, that's a great word to use. Dignity is that nobody even really knows what that word means anymore, and I use that loosely. Nobody.
Well, it's funny too because people think that being rescued. Or here's a good example. When my wife hurt her back a few months ago, she didn't want to call 911 to have an ambulance come get her because she couldn't move.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't want her neighbors to think, oh, she can't take care of herself or what's wrong.
Yeah.
It was all about her dignity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a mindset that's generationally been ingrained in her family that it's about appearances.
And how many of us take our kids to the doctor at the slightest sniffle, the slightest sore throat or whatever, a fever? Do we take them right to the doctor? Or do we already know what to expect, what to do?
Well,
right.
I was raised old school. I was never taking the doctor for anything in a lot of ways, So for me, it's like, you know what?
Your arm's broken, it'll heal.
Yeah, exactly.
I went to the hospital for the broken bones and stuff. But yeah,
Exactly.
a lot of things you don't need to do that. A lot of things it's a simple solution at home. That's why this whole movement of getting back into nature and getting back to the landers movement.
Mm-hmm.
People want to be able to have their own solutions. That's why you'll see there's a lot of tinctures being made and teas,
mm-hmm.
Because there's so many good elements out in the wild, and if you know what they are, that's your medicine cabinet.
And freedom is dangerous. I mean, let's face it. If you're not willing to take somewhat of a risk, then you're not going to really know what true freedom is. And I think
and in lieu of that, real quick, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to do one final thought and then hang up. But that's one of the things that scares me about what Utah's doing, especially in reference to the BLM and stripping the sheriffs of their power, because then we will have no access to those places that are ours.
Very concerning, absolutely.
That's a great point.
Thank you for bringing that up. Then thank you very much for the call. Sure appreciate it.
It's interesting because that actually reminded me of Florida. They've just made it illegal to homestead on your own land
I've seen
unless you've already been living there for a long time. So you can't just go off grid in Florida.
Yeah.
And there's other states that are doing that as well. But it started off with one community, and then they ended up condemning your property so you can't live in your off-grid house.
And
so
it all comes down to having our voice being heard. I mean, that's a big part of it. I saw a video clip, I think this morning, of a city council. They refused to hear any public comment. And maybe you've seen this, it's starting to go viral. And so the citizen arrested them right there on the spot. He arrested them, called the sheriff, said, this is illegal for you not to allow public comment. I'm arresting all of you right now. This is a citizen's arrest. And he took matters into his own hands. It was fantastic.
That is awesome.
Absolutely awesome.
Okay, you're going to need to put that up on the Facebook feed.
I can do that.
Because I have not seen that.
It is outstanding. So going back towards, the evolution of prepping, not prepping, but personal preparedness, going from scouting to outdoorsman, being an outdoorsman and hiking and camping, and for me, getting into rock climbing and caving, and eventually really into survival, being a survivalist on a certain level, learning how to eat wild edible plants and how to make a fire with a bow drill. And I mean, that's all part of that evolution. And then as I'm growing up, I'm saying, I'm starting to get on the old side, but as I'm growing up, I have a family to take care of. So automatically leads me toward homesteading. And of course, this last weekend at the Liberty Rising fundraiser we had an excellent speaker there. I'm trying to remember his name. It was Angus McIntosh, who talked about the ranchers and property rights and land rights and homesteading. It was fantastic. I learned so much there. It was amazing. And it really tugged at my soul strings saying, yeah, you need to do this. You need to get out and learn to homestead more. So that's part of my evolution, is going from just being a prepper, and living in my, suburban home in a nice little community, and to really having this desire, this urge, this yearning to move away and participate in what our ancestors did for hundreds and thousands of years, and living off the land.
It's interesting because a lot of people will call that like a de-evolution.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But in reality, it is an evolutionary change. It's an improvement, right? You're improving on your current way of life.
Mm-hmm. your
You know,
self-sufficiency.
the first time that I had to process a chicken that we'd raised, I can't tell you the level of gratitude that I had for that animal. Realizing that I cared for, I loved this animal, I brought it up, I made sure it was healthy, I made sure it had everything it needed, because I knew it was going to feed my family later. And that understanding, that balance, you end up respecting everything. You have a lot less waste. You have more gratitude. You appreciate everything a lot more. And that's, I think, the problem we have in current society is people want that again.
Yeah, and that's a bit of a conundrum in that you're at the Outdoor Retailers Expo, and in taking that course of evolution, it turns you away from consumerism.
Yeah.
But there's also
Absolutely.
there's also the option of, okay, I'm going to homestead, but I'm going to take advantage of all the modern conveniences and technology like solar and living off grid. So that's a big topic we could talk about there, is how do you reconcile moving forward but actually moving backwards, forward, backwards, whatever you want to call it that way. Living more simply, is that actually regressing? Or are you progressing that way and taking advantage of technology? Am I making myself clear, Scott?
I think you are, but I think it doesn't have to be looked at that way. You don't have to look at it as moving forward or moving backward. I mean, it's a different pathway. You know, I could go live completely off-grid in the woods, never have power again, and that's up to me or up to you, to whoever wants to do that. And if that makes them happier and if that makes them more self-reliant, power to them.
You know, let's look at
some people are going to want to enhance that lifestyle and put solar in and have plumbing and have a bathroom and have different things instead of finding the tree that you go pee on.
Yep. You
know, there's other ways to have a solution. And I think it really comes down to what's going to make you feel happiest, feel true joy, and feel balanced again. Because that's where we're missing things, is we just don't feel that balance with nature anymore.
And it's not an easy process. I mean, it's not an easy process to go through.
Oh no.
You know, and I love the homesteading. I love that that term, but also going back to the land as well. And I want to talk about that briefly as well. I've got a caller on line 3 here. Let's go ahead and bring him on. Hello, caller. Who's this? What's your name?
Ryan.
Hello, Ryan. What have you got for us today?
Well, I just wanted to recommend a book that I read, kind of pertinent to the topic you're talking about, just kind of getting back to the land, homesteading, that kind of thing. Check it out at public library. It's called Surviving Off-Grid, and it can be a little ranty at times, but it's a philosophical book.
Okay.
So it kind of gets you in the mindset of thinking about, you know, how people back in the day did things and why they did them. I just found it really interesting, and it got me thinking about, okay, what would I do? You know. So anyway, and it's called Surviving Off-Grid.
Okay,
kind of it throws you off a little bit, but if you haven't checked it out or seen it, I would recommend it to anybody who's kind of going down that path, just to get some philosophical ideas in your head. So
and I think that is a great way to start about it. Is don't go buy the gear and then move off grid. You have to decide.
Right, because you're just going to be rebuying everything.
Exactly.
You know, get it, and that's the other thing. In a survival situation, you've got one shot. You don't.
Yes.
You know, your second chances are going to be very few and in between. So knowledge is your friend.
Absolutely. And another book was brought up to me this morning as well, called The Lost Ways. So looking back and learning how to make pemmican and live as people did in the 1700s.
Right, and they did okay.
Yeah, they survived. We're here now.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously our civilization has grown more rapidly with technology.
Are a lot of comforts, that we have now, and especially, urgent care medicine has progressed, and treating diseases and to a certain extent. But to an idea, you have to go back, and there's so many resources too, like on YouTube of reenactors and stuff, and they tell you how they did it.
Yeah. And that's something I say an awful lot is to prepare for the future, you have to look to the past, look to our ancestors, the way they lived, and prepare to live that way, because that's the way it's going to be. Maybe not for us and our generation, but for our kids, most likely it will.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the call. I sure
no
appreciate
worries.
it.
Great show. Love it so much.
Thank you. Appreciate
Bye.
that. Bye.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, it's interesting. All of our listeners today brought up really good points, and I think the basis is you got to learn. Never stop learning.
Yep.
When you die.
Part of that learning is actually being out in the field, not just book learning, not just reading something on a screen. It's actually being out in the field. And so I throw this at you in our last few seconds here, really, is what would you rather have? A really nice steel chainsaw or a really fantastic quality handcrafted axe? There's your two spectrums right there. Obviously, either is going to make your work easier, but a chainsaw compared to an axe. So thank you for joining us today. We sure appreciate it. We love doing this show. We hope you listen to us next week. You've been with Prepper Talk Radio. You're on K-Talk AM 630. And you guys keep prepping, and we'll talk to you next week.